Alright, what's up you guys? Welcome to another action figure review. As today I'm going to take you all the way into virtual reality as we take a look at the VR Troopers released by Kenner in 1994. Now if you're not familiar with the VR Troopers, it's basically another SABAN-esque style TV show which basks in on the glory of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Masked Riders, Superhuman Samurai, Mystic Knights of Ternanog, and Big Bad Beetleborgs. This show basically has similar traits of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, as they all have this dojo that JB Reese, Ryan Steele, and Caitlyn Star all go at, and they train. They basically act as the students there, and as well as having professional jobs outside of the dojo, and kind of give you like that motivational good teenager vibes to those around them, and to defeat the evil villain known as GRIMLORD. And this show basically contains a very emotional concept because the main character, Ryan Steele, has lost his father, and they're basically trying to find where his father is, and every episode by the end has like a PSA of Ryan talking to his mind and trying to convey that he hopes to find his father one day. So other than that, these figures do look really cool, and there's something to really note about these characters, which I'll talk about at near the end. But for now, let's take a look at each one of these characters and just see how great they really are. Alright, so up first we're taking a look at the leader of the VR Troopers, which is Ryan Steele. And this figure, or character for that matter, is a really cool looking character. Now it kind of reminds me of the anime series Kikator, as it's basically a cyber robotic character that's half red and half blue. And the thing about this character is that if you're not familiar with the Ryan Steele and Tommy Oliver thing, originally this character was supposed to be played by Tommy Oliver, aka Jason David Frank, who left Power Rangers after the Green Ranger powers were relinquished, and then he basically wanted to go into a new TV series, and this is basically where he was doing the pilot for it, but unfortunately that did not work as he went back to Power Rangers as the White Ranger. The actor who played Ryan Steele was then hired to play as this new character within a show called VR Troopers, and it worked for the better because he is a really badass and cool martial artist. So I love how the sculpting of this character is really awesome. It does have all the mechanical parts, and for an old Kenner style figure, it just screams out 90s nostalgia and really gives you that cyber initiative. And I love how the head sculpt has the cyber parts right there on this type of the head, and yeah, it gives you all the mechanical features, whereas this one is more of the actual robotic form. So kind of giving you like an interior and then exterior style design. So his lightning hand, and that's basically how he chops people in half, which is pretty cool. And then he comes with a translucent yellow gun. I love the facial expression, the actual look of it, and love how the interior of the sculpting of this just, has all these gadgets and technological parts to it, and just back of the figure looks really cool. And so yeah, the yellow eyes really do complements against the blues and greens and silvers, and this is actually his first costume, as the second costume was also from another TV show which involved a blue looking character, because he does lose his powers, and unfortunately we do not have that kind of figure for the Kenner line, so this is the only version that we have of Ryan Steele. Other than that, his mission to rescue his father is to be determined in the virtual reality, so that is Ryan Steele. Up next we have Caitlyn Star, who is a photographer of the group and works at this photography company and tries to get photos of the VR Troopers, kind of like a Peter Parker-esque scenario. And she's more of the level-headed character of the group, and I love her design. And the cool part is they go inside this morphing grid where they dress up as Red Ranger helmet Power Ranger-esque designs and fight the Skugs there as well, who's like the putties version of the VR Troopers, and everything else about it is really cool. And I do like how this figure does stick out compared to Ryan, which we'll get into a little bit, but you can see how she does have the cool blacks with the reds and whites, and then the red strap there on top, and very minimal designing there, but the color scheme does pop out with translucent lime green guns and this little sai right here that I don't think she uses in the show. I think she uses the gun, but not really this weapon, but whatever. The silvers do look really nice, and all against the actual maroons on the back of the figure as well. And it's very unfortunate that these Kenner figures really lacked the articulation despite how cool these figures do look. And I'm sure that there are other imports out there, but you know, for the 90s it would have been better if it had like more articulation, but that's why we had to use our imagination and get through with what we had. And yeah, so there's not too much to say other than the designing is pretty decent, but you know, it does play in unison with the next figure we're going to take a look at. So that is Caitlyn Star. Up next we have JB Reese, who's definitely the badass of the group and the coolest one amongst the VR troopers. And right off the gate I want to talk about his laser lance, because every time he summons his laser lance command now, he just screams it in such a badass way, like his life depends on it. So it's a nice translucent blue, which does connect together, as you can remove each piece and you can put it on both hands, which is pretty cool. I like the design of this character as it has the blacks, reds, and grays with a little lime green in the middle, and the whole overall aesthetic is very similar to Caitlyn's, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But the design of it kind of gives you like that Daft Punk helmet, which is pretty cool and funny at the same time. So I always loved how these guys would fight by the industrial plants and stuff like that, like these empty arenas, and I just love the individual sculpting there on the back with the silvers. Really does complements with the blacks and little subtle darker reds, not the annoying kinds, and the somewhat mechanical style arms, and the robotic aesthetic really just makes the figure pop a lot more, and it's pretty cool. Still wish that the articulation was better on these figures, but that's basically the way it is. And let's talk about the interesting part about all these characters as a whole. Now, one thing to note here is that in the actual Saban era of these TV shows, Caitlyn and JB within the Sentai versions are actually two characters that are part of the same exact show. So you have Caitlyn and JB, who a lot of times you'll see them fighting in the actual series together, entering the big ship that they pilot, whereas every time you have Ryan here, who's actually from a different Sentai show, goes to his own missions and tells them to do whatever they need to do, and he'll do things on the ground or on the cycle, or he'll fight like in a solo mission. So aside from solo missions, you'll never see these three characters all in one shot within the Japanese Sentai versions, because again, these are two separate shows that Saban tried to combine together. Unless it's in the American graphics where you see these stunt doubles wearing these oversized big-headed helmets and baggy costumes. That's the only way you'll see all three of them interact with each other. And outside from their human form, you'll never see these three basically be in one scene together. And it took me years and years and years to finally figure this out as I rewatched it when the show re-aired on Netflix, and I was like mind blown, because I was like, holy shit, I did not realize that. The second uniform that Ryan uses, which is more of a blue character, which I do not have the figure of, that's also from a separate show, and that blue figure does not coincide with these two as well. So yeah, very unfortunate, but Saban was a genius for doing what he did. So that's a little bit of a history for you guys who don't know anything about this show. Alright you guys, so that was my VR Troopers little mini overview collection, as we have JB Reese, Ryan Steele, and Caitlyn Star. So like I mentioned before, it basks in on the Saban era of having different Sentai versions of media mixed into one show to kind of give us you know, cool superheroes, and just how awesome the Japanese Sentai world was at the time. And it only makes me wonder how much more is out there that the US did not have. I want to thank you guys all for watching. Be sure to give a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next episode.